What is good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shadic Stick dropping some hot fragga on this mic. Today, we're going to be doing the Shadiz Zone. Yes, the Shadiz Zone Podcast has returned. If you're watching this on Mob Shadic 100, thank you. If you're going to this from a link from somewhere else like Anchor or wherever, thank you again. I highly appreciate it. If you want to watch this podcast in another form, links will be in the description. But today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5. We're going to be talking about the anime Kimetsu no Yaiba, otherwise known as Demon Slayer. And we're also going to be talking about anime games in general and some of the stuff I've been playing. We're also going to talk about more specifically Mario Kart Tour. So I'd highly appreciate it if you could stick around for the entire podcast. If not, I'll have all the individual subjects as separate videos for the podcast. But let's begin. So, the PlayStation 5, Sony's next major console. Some people wanted to be called something else because they think PlayStation 5 is too boring. I guess they got tired of PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and 4 and decided now is the time that Sony needs to reinvent their formula and call the PlayStation 5 like the PlayStation Ultra or the PlayStation Ultimate. But I'll have the links for everything down in the description below. Today, though, we're going to look at the PS5 and everything we know about it. So right now we know that AMD again is supplying the CPU and GPU, is going to be using the Navi architecture for its GPU and I think Zen 2. I have Zen 2 written down here. If not, come and bully me in the comment section and be like, Shadic, you fool, what are you doing? You are not dropping that hot fragga right now. You're telling me some foolish lies. But I have Zen 2 written down here. If it's not Zen 2, correct me. It'll have ray tracing capabilities, and we've heard Sony talk about these ray tracing capabilities, more specifically when it deals with sound, because ray trace sound is something that I feel will actually revolutionize gaming in a way people aren't thinking about. But you know, they talk about ray tracing. It does have ray tracing capabilities, and it will, you know, they've talked about sound, but I think they will have visual ray tracing capabilities, especially by the time the console releases. It also has an SSD that is 19 times faster than traditional SSDs or what's out on the market right now. What we don't know yet is if this is proprietary. And on top of that, we know they have mandatory installs because of this. But because of these mandatory installs, you can partially install a game. Like you can say, for instance, I know a lot of games this generation have started doing this more specifically around like single player and multiplayer. Like I think The Last of Us Remastered does this. You can partially install the game. You can install just the single player or just the multiplayer at first, depending on which one you want to hop into first. On top of that, other games do this. I think Killzone does this. I think the COD games do this. I've had another game that I've recently downloaded that I forgot does this, but I remember the game allowed me to partially download part of the game, and then the other part of the game I could leave alone. It's mostly with games that have separate single players and multiplayers that you see this with. But I think it's a pretty cool concept in mind, and I think this will actually help save on space. And on top of that, people with internet that isn't as fast will actually benefit from the PlayStation 5 when I go into a little bit further what we're talking about, because I've talked about these partial installs. But are we going to get proprietary storage? That's an issue that I'm seeing right here, because we know Sony has done this before, most notably with their handheld systems. Now, back in the day with the PlayStation 1 and 2, this was common because this console manufacturing was different back then. So you had to have a proprietary memory card. But nowadays, there are storage standards. So are we not going to be able to use our hard drives and the standard SSDs that we have now? Or will we have to buy something from Sony to increase our storage? Because it's going to be kind of like a slap in the face. I have all these games installed on my 2.5 terabyte, I think, hard drive for my PS4. And the fact that I won't be able to plug it in will be something that will make me mad. We don't know if it's proprietary yet, but it's sounding like something that's proprietary, and that kind of scares me. But on top of having proprietary storage and stuff, we know that the PS4, well, we don't know if they'll have proprietary storage, my bad. But we know after having this like extremely fast storage, which is there to, fix load times, we know we'll have 4K Blu-ray support, which is a great thing because 4K Blu-rays are 100 gigabyte discs instead of 50 gigabyte discs like standard Blu-rays are, which is an issue that we saw with this past generation. The Blu-rays are starting to be too small. The Last of Us Part 2 will be on 2 disc, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is already a 2-disc game. What other games are going to be 2-disc? Is Final Fantasy VII Remake going to be 2-disc? I'd prefer them do like have all the games on 1 disc or 2 discs though, instead of having to download the other portions of the game. And the reason I say this is because as someone with really slow internet, I have like 8 down. It kind of, it hurts because you want to play these games, but you can't play them immediately or as soon as possible because you're having to go through the install process. Then after installs are done, then you have to download even more of the game. I really just hope that these 100 gigabyte Blu-rays indicate that we won't have as much to download next generation when it comes around to it. But I don't think that's necessarily the case unless a lot of the games come on 2 Blu-ray disc, because as you guys can see in the PC realm, this is something that I think PC gaming is having trouble with, are these hundreds of gigabyte games where you have these games taking up anywhere from 100 to like somewhere near 200 gigabytes of storage. It's kind of ridiculous when you look at it, and I really hope that doesn't become the case, that these game companies just think that they can just keep releasing bigger and bigger games without doing some type of compression, because I feel like that's what's happening. I feel like there's no compression going on and that these companies are just releasing hundreds and hundreds of gigabyte games, because you see companies like Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch, and you can see that they heavily compress their games just to get them on these cartridges. Like the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at launch was around like 8 gigs. And when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that game is likely larger than 8 gigs. It's just that Nintendo's doing some magic to compress that game down to that size. Again, I feel like Sony needs to take the route and the approach that Nintendo is taking and try to get more game developers and take their own games and crunch them down to be smaller and compress them so that you can get them to the mass market. And it really helps with people like me, again, that don't have the best internet and don't have any other options. I have like 7 or 8 down, but I don't have any other options unless I go to Mediacom and have to pay $300 a month. Plus, on top of paying that $300 a month, while it does come with cable, that's the only way I can get access to that. I just think that people don't understand that not everyone has the best internet, and on top of not everybody not having the best internet, I just don't think it's the approach we can take right now, especially when you have things like cloud gaming catching up. And while yes, companies like Microsoft are taking the wheel on cloud gaming, Microsoft is taking a different approach and say something like Google Stadia is, first of all, they talked about having negative latency, and while yes, I understand they're trying to do basically they're using prediction-based technology, I don't think the term negative latency or saying that the latency will be lower than native hardware was a smart idea to say, because first of all, it's not going to be lower than native hardware. That's going to be impossible. That's like saying online and Smash Ultimate is the same as offline. It's a completely different game online than it is offline. And I really just I hope that, Sony takes the helm on like kind of telling people cloud gaming is an option rather than telling them it's the future. But on top of this, we do know some more stuff about the PlayStation 5. We know it's going to have a new user interface, which I don't really care for the user interface in the PS4. I really like the crossbar menu in the PS3. I didn't like that it lagged, especially when you were in a game, but I like the layout of that. Now, the PS4, I will admit, keeps your most recent games that you've played right at the beginning, which is a really good idea. and it's the approach the Nintendo Switch takes. But when you try to go back and access the rest of your games, and if they're not in that folder that you have on, I guess, the beginning of the home menu, it gets really annoying, especially considering the fact that it takes forever to load into the other game section or the application section or the all game section. I'd rather Sony just take kind of the approach with the PS3 menu and then build upon that rather than taking the PS4. Actually, if they kind of just combined the PS4 and the PS3 menus, I feel like we would got the best of both worlds. Like, if we get like something that's fast, because if you have a base PS4, more specifically the original PS4, things are not as snappy as they could be on that thing. But I heard with the PS4 Pro, the menu and stuff is really fast. So if we could get something with the speed of the PS4 Pro menu and user interface combined with something like the ease of access and the amount of depth you could just really have with the PlayStation 3 interface, I'd be really, really happy. On top of that, I really want a lot of the multimedia function stuff to come back, more specifically around music. Your boy has become an audiophile. Your boy rocking the KZZS10 Pros. Amazon affiliate link in the description. I don't know if I actually have an affiliate link in the description. I don't know. I haven't even signed up for the Amazon affiliate program. But your boy's using these. They're pretty nice. And on top of that, we know that the PS5 will have a new audio setup. So I'm wondering what this audio setup is going to be, especially considering like I'm someone like me who's a budget audiophile and he's looking for something to play those CDs, play that FLAC on an audio system. Sony, you gotta pull up and show your boy what y'all got with the new audio setup. All right. But on the real, I really am interested with the PS5 because we're going to have PS4 backwards compatibility off rip. We're getting a powerful system, and it looks like they're really just trying to push the system to the edge. And by the time it'll come out, like the system obviously won't be. So I think it's probably going to be a $500 system, considering everything we have, considering that they're even doing things with the controller, like having, I guess, this adaptive, they want this sort of adaptive friction or resistance with their analog triggers. And it's something that Sony hasn't been like really shy of beforehand with their controllers. But I don't think they've taken the strides that Nintendo has with the controllers, like stuff with like HD Rumble, or having them, you know, the Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons are probably one of the biggest, I guess, pushes in controller technology we've ever seen. They have had things like pressure sensitive buttons on the PS2, or they added 6-axis gyro or accelerometer, you know, just motion sensing in the PS3 controller. I actually think the PS4 controller might have that. I don't know. Don't get me on that one. But the biggest thing I hope they improve with this PS5 controller is battery life. Because Jesus Christ, even when you turn off the light or put it to super dim on the PS4 controller, it just does not last that long. The battery life on the PS4 controller is so anemic, it's ridiculous. Honestly though, I hope we get something in the way of a really strong console with a really strong presence at launch. I want to get the PS5 at launch. Tell me how you guys feel about that. I mean, we know we're getting it holiday or fall 2020. So again, Sony, your system looking mad promising right now. But on the real, tell me how you guys feel about this in that description below. Are you hyped for the PlayStation 5? Do you feel indifferent about it? Because I know a lot of people on my, at least on my main YouTube channel, are Nintendo boys. They're the Joy-Con Nation, the Joy-Con boys. So I know a lot of them don't really delve in the Sony sphere of gaming. I mean, I have tons of PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3 games and even PS2 games back there. And while Nintendo will always be the platform I gravitate to for a lot of my favorite games and stuff, Sony just, I usually have that Sony console or platform to have access to everything that's not Nintendo or that's not prone to being on a Nintendo console. Now, that was kind of the opposite with the Wii and I guess now the Nintendo Switch. But back when I really wanted to play COD with a lot of my friends and stuff in school, IRL. I needed that PS3. I need that PS4 to kind of play games with them because that's what they had. But again, tell me how you feel about what Sony is doing with the PlayStation 5 in that comment section down below. Now, let's move to another topic. Let's talk about some anime, my dude. Yes, anime, guys. We're going to be talking about Kimetsu no Yaiba, and more specifically, is it overrated? Because I've seen like some people on Twitter try to slander the fans and stuff like that of the show, and I think it's a really good show. I do think some people have blown it out of proportion, but the majority of people have been just saying it's a really good show. And I actually remember asking on Twitter, should I watch Kimetsu no Yaiba? And people told me, yeah, the story's great, the characters are really engaging, the art style's great, which I really, really like the art style of Kimetsu no Yaiba. The animation is great, and it's just a really enjoyable experience. Now, I'm gonna go over some of the points I've written down here on my show notes. So do I like Demon Slayer? Yeah, I like it. I mean, but how do I feel about it? What's my opinion on the show? My in-depth opinion, my YouTuber review opinion. So let me give a short synopsis of the story. I mean, this isn't really going to spoil anything. This is basically the first episode. But Tanjiro, who is the main character, Tanjiro, and his family live in the mountains of Japan. One day he goes down to the mountain. By the way, it's like an ancient Japan. It's after the West has basically come to Japan and is like, hey, we have trains. But his family lives in the mountains of Japan, and one day he goes down the mountain to the market or whatever, but he returns and he actually has to stay in one of the mountains man's houses because he says, there's some demons out here, boy, you don't need to be out here at night. And so Tanjiro stays in his house, and the next morning he goes back home, and when he's returned, his family has been eviscerated, bro. They have been slain. They hit my boy with the they hit my boy with the Uchiha clan slaughter, if you know what I mean. But everybody's been killed but his sister Nezuko. He actually walks up to Nezuko because she's still moving, and it turns out she's been turned into a demon. Oh man, oh my god, what a plot twist. But she's a different type of demon. She doesn't want to really eat humans. I mean, something in here is saying, I'm not eating humans ever. And his goal is basically to farm the demon who killed his family and turned his sister into a demon so he can change his sister back into a human and then kill that demon. Now, let me say something. The plot is actually relatively simple. It follows the plot that a lot of it feels like a battle shonen in a lot of ways, though I will say its approach and presentation isn't as such. It feels, I don't know, it feels kind of weird. It feels, it is a shonen. I'm pretty sure it's a battle shonen. And it just feels different. It feels different than like a Naruto, a Dragon Ball, a Bleach. It feels a lot different than those. It's simple yet really, really good. It's really good. You never get a sense of there anything being really overly complicated. So that's why I say it's simple. But the story keeps you invested. I don't feel like I'm having to learn all the chakra types, all the nin types, and then having to worry about what can kill what. You have a special blade that can kill the demons. There's that. Boom, bada boom, bop, bap, you're good. On top of this, the characters, though, are really memorable. My favorite character so far is Zenitsu and Inosuke. It's between those two because the dynamic between those characters are really good. And a lot of these characters leave an on-screen impact, even if they're kind of just one-off characters, which I like. I like it when you implement those one-off characters that leave an impact on screen, or one of those kind of one-note characters. Not even one-note characters, just those characters serve their purpose in the story, now they're gone. Or, maybe they'll appear again or show back up, but it never feels like a character is meaningless, really. It has that same feel that Gintama has. I really like Gintama because it doesn't feel like any of the characters are meaningless. All the characters have their purpose in the world, or they're in that world for a certain purpose. So I really, really like that. And what about the music? I think the music is probably the weakest part of the show. I don't think there's anything that's super memorable. It's good, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think there's anything super memorable. I don't think there's a Yusei run in there or just an entire Naruto or Dragon Ball OST in there, if you get what I mean. It's good, but it leaves a little bit to be desired. It leaves a little bit to be desired. I'm gonna say that. It's not legendary, at least as of yet. So what about the animation? Because that's where I think I have the most gripes, despite that not being the biggest letdown in it. Because, like, the music was a letdown for me, because everything was so great, but then, like, the music, sometimes I felt like it could have took an extra step to be memorable in my mind, at least. But what about the animation? It's really, really, really good. Some of the best from this year. While I still think Mob Psycho is visually the best thing we will get this year, no matter what, hands down, Mob Psycho 2. Excuse me. I think it's some of the best we've seen this year. It's really fluid when it needs to be, and it's just a spectacle. Like, ufotable. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but they've done an amazing job with Demon Slayer here, because it is amazing. It looks beautiful. But I have one gripe, and it's because I'm not going to say when it's not beautiful, but when you can tell that they kind of overuse CG. And I say this in a way that's not like, oh, I hate CG. I don't hate the implementation of CG in animation or in anime more specifically, especially because I think it can enhance some scenes. Like, I think the best example of this in Kimetsu no Yaiba was when they were actually in the drum house with the drum demon. The drum demon, and this isn't going to spoil anything really, because it's not like super plot important. They're fighting this drum demon, and he can like twirl and move the house and move all the rooms in the house and force them into other rooms and stuff. And it's a really cool concept. And with the use of CG, they were able to make those scenes and those battles come to life in a way that I don't think they could have using just straight up 2D. They combined the 2D and the CG to make a really great scene. And on top of that, when they sometimes use just straight CG, it looks amazing. I think the best example of this was when Tanjiro was training in the forest, and there were all these traps, and like they did this really cool cinematic, like, I don't know what they did with the camera angles, but it was really nice. And when they use it in shots and scenes like those, I really love it. And it doesn't really bother me or anything like that, because it looks so good, and they do it to push the animation to the next level. But where I have an issue with Kimetsu no Yaiba's use of CG, and I give them a pass on this because everything else is so amazing. I kind of feel like they use it when it's unnecessary. Now, I will say this though, the animation industry in Japan is way different than it is in the West or anywhere else. Like, the animation industry in Japan is a lot more hectic. They have a lot tighter deadlines, a lot shorter deadlines. They animate up until the day, if not the hour of release sometimes. And then on top of that, they have to do a lot more with a lot less, and what they do is just mind-boggling, especially considering the condition of that industry. And I think it might be just something because of the way the industry is, or they had to get the episodes out on time, so they use CG to get these episodes out faster. But there was one part I remember specifically where, and I think this happened a few times, where Tanjiro would be walking, and they would have it from the side. It'd be a side angle. Sometimes it'd be 2D. Some characters on the screen would be 2D, but I remember Tanjiro specifically walking, and the scene was like CG, but it just looked like a PS2 game. It looked like a PS2 game with PS4 anime game character models on top. It didn't look right. And while the parts like that are so far and few, I won't say they're so far and few, but while scenes like that don't happen often, it's enough to kind of take you out of the anime and just be like, whoa, what just happened there? Like, I was not expecting this PS2 gameplay when I was watching the anime. But otherwise, it's really good. I don't think it's overrated. I think it's probably one of the best anime to release, one of the best new anime. Let me say that, one of the best new anime, if not the best new anime to release this year. That isn't like Fire Force or Dr. Stone. I think those three are really the top three anime to release this year. Now we have things like Mob Psycho 100 season 2, and I don't think anything this year is going to touch that. I really do not, because that was some big brain plays up there. But a lot of stuff this year we getting in terms of anime is really, really good. So I think you guys should watch Kimetsu no Yaiba and give it a chance, because it's probably I think it's going to be one of the greatest anime of all time. Just one of the greatest anime series of all time. So I would get into it now while you can. They have a movie, and I'm pretty sure they're planning a season 2 after that movie, if that movie and the anime keep up the traction, which it probably will. Now let's talk about my next topic, because I've been thinking about this recently, man. And with people like my boy Avatar, check his channel out. Link will be in the description. But he's been talking about this on Twitter and in his videos and stuff lately, like wanting fighters like Naruto game. And while I enjoy the gameplay of Dragon Ball FighterZ as a game it left things to be desired, because I feel like the content wasn't up there, or at least like the story mode and what they did with that felt really easy. The arcade mode, while I had my feelings about that game, the gameplay was really fun and enjoyable. And while I have some gripes with the gameplay, like I feel like it just rewards super aggressive play, and it doesn't really reward much else. I just think it's a really fun game to play. And I'm not a top level player, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I understand the game at the highest levels. I'm talking from a casual perspective. It's a really great game, though. It's a really fun game. Let me say that. It's a fun game. It's definitely one of the more enjoyable anime games that's come out in the past few years. But it seems like if an anime game isn't Dragon Ball, it's immediately trash upon launch. I think the last time we got like a relatively decent anime game that wasn't Dragon Ball was Naruto Storm 4, and it's really sad to say that. I mean, despite some of the issues I have with Storm 4, it's probably one of the more polished anime games to come out that hasn't been a Dragon Ball game in the past like 5 or 6 years. Now, why do I say anime games are trash? They're trash because they are all becoming this generic copy of Storm, or they're all mediocre or trash. Let's just say they're garbage mobile games, or they're Muso games. Like, those are the only three genres that, like, people in the anime community who want video game adaptations of their favorite shows or manga series are just kind of feeding into. Like, and it's really upsetting because they just have these carbon copy games. I mean, think about, especially games from Spike Chunsoft. Think about it. Like, J-Stars to One Piece Burning Blood to Jump Force are all kind of just the same game. And with them working on, I think they're the ones working on the latest One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows. It's kind of saddening because people are eating up those games. I mean, look at My Hero Academia One's Justice. I mean, the first and the second game just look the same. They just look the same. Like, it doesn't look like they're trying to take these games in a way, and I understand they're licensed games, they're licensed products, but that doesn't mean they have to be bad. I mean, Dragon Ball, one of the biggest franchises on the planet, has shown that you can do more. Naruto, despite the varying quality across the, I guess the franchise video games, they try to be different. You have the Naruto, A Path to the Ninja, in Broken Bond. Those games were especially very different. You have Uzumaki Chronicles. You have the Ultimate Ninja series alone just has so many different types of games. Like, you have Ultimate Ninja Heroes, you have Ultimate Ninja Storm, you have the original Ultimate Ninja series, and then on top of that you have like Ultimate Ninja Destiny, I think. You have Ultimate Ninja what is it called? I'm trying to think of it. It's coming it's the one on the PSP that was basically a Muso game, but There aren't that many Naruto and Musou games that I know of. It's like the only one. And it played like Naruto Storm. It took a unique approach. And even Naruto Storm had a Musou mode in it. And despite it being, locked off to certain chapters of the story in Naruto Storm 3, I think it added variety to the games. It just feels like if something's not Naruto or Dragon Ball, it gets the short end of the stick, because despite Shinobi Striker being the garbage that it is, that game even tried something different. It tried to be a MOBA. You don't see that many anime games coming out trying different things if they're not from those two franchises. Dragon Ball Xenoverse is an MMO light. The Dragon Ball series has everything from card games to fighting games to RPGs to action adventure games. I mean, look at the latest game CC2 is working on, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. It is an action RPG. How many other anime games are doing that? I mean, I reviewed Kill I Kill If on my YouTube channel, on my main YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shadic. Check it out. But people were defending that game. And I told them it was just Naruto Storm, which you can obviously see. It's just Naruto Storm with a Kill la Kill If skin, with a Kill la Kill skin that's $60 with with like a 20th of the characters. I mean, think about it. I mean, the game literally functions as Storm. It has all the same things Storm has. It in concept, really, people shouldn't really be buying the game, I believe, because you can just buy Storm 4. Why buy Kill I Kill If for $60 when you can go to the store and buy Storm 4 with the Boruto DLC and with all the DLC basically for like $20? Come on. I think the anime community should want more from these developers. Like, it's not so much that even like the games are bad, it's that people defend these awful games, and I believe that people should want more from these anime gaming developers and publishers. Banco. But, enough with the anime games and stuff, them being trash. What games am I playing, boy? What games am I playing right now? I know my microphone just peaked. I know I just hurt you guys' ears. But what am I playing right now? Right now, I'm playing Celeste. I started it on PC because I got it for free through the Epic's Games launcher, and I decided I wanted it on Nintendo Switch, so I bought it on Switch. And while I haven't really opened it up there, I've played it a bit on PC, and I've really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna enjoy it even more on Switch because I can take it on the go. There's a lot of segments in the game that are like really short, so I can play the game in a lot more short bursts. And I just think it's a great platformer. You can see why it was like it got Game of the Year or got nominated for Game of the Year, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it got nominated for Game of the Year because it is that good. The story was really good, which you don't see like a lot of platformers with like super over the top stories or anything. And it's not a super over the top story, but it's really engaging and engages the player in the game, in the world itself. The next game I've been playing, actually, ironically, is COD Mobile. And I haven't really played COD in years, to be honest with you. And it's just bringing back a lot of nostalgia because a lot of the maps are from the era I grew up in with COD, which was the Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops, World at War, Black Ops 2. Those games were like the big COD games that I grew with. So to see a lot of the maps and characters and just guns and stuff from those games and that mobile game is really fun. And you can even play it on PC with keyboard and mouse and controller and stuff, because the game is through Tencent, and Tencent has this emulator called Game Buddy, which you can go on and you can like basically play all the games on your PC with. And well, to a degree it's kind of messed up. They're putting mobile players against those players. I mean, at the end of the, or actually I think Game Buddy players are all PC players. I don't know, but I think it's a really fun experience. So if you have some time, play it. It does have Activision, you can tell, wants some money from the, and Tencent wants some money from the microtransactions, so watch out. You don't really have to pay for anything. They give you a lot of free stuff, but I'm telling you, watch out. Transistor. I've been playing that game because I bought it for Nintendo Switch. I actually had it for free through the PS4, but my PS4 controller is busted right now. It has this issue that's common. Actually, I didn't know this was common, which is like a stutter in the controller, which I have. This is the second PS4 controller I bought. The first one just kind of stopped charging for like a year, and then it just started wanting to charge again. I don't know why. And then like I bought this one, and I gave away the other controller to one of my friends because he needed it. But your boy is about to buy another controller. He's gonna get probably the still black PS4 controller because that's the one that looks the cleanest. But Transistor, just going through that game again, it's so good. It's such a polished game. You know, it's by the developer Supergiant Games, I believe, who they also did Bastion, and I enjoyed what I had played of Bastion. So just going through this game, it's just giving me those vibes again. I really like it. The next game I've been playing has been Mario Kart Tour. I actually talk about that one in a bit, so I'm going to leave my opinions and stuff on that off. And I've also been playing Astral Chain, which I beat that game finally, and I got a video coming out on it on the gaming channel, which I'll dub it the main channel for right now. But on my gaming channel, I'm gonna have this video talking about it. But Astral Chain I feel like that game is gonna get nominated for Game of the Year. It's one of the best games this year, along with Kingdom Hearts 3. Haven't gotten to play Resident Evil 2 Remake or Devil May Cry 5, but I heard those games are really, really good. It seems like Capcom's on the come up with those, but Astral Chain, just pick it up. That's all I can say, man. That game is too good for you to not pick up, especially if you own a Nintendo Switch. So, let's talk about Mario Kart Tour. Is Mario Kart Tour really that bad? So before I get into the negatives, let's talk about the positives. Let's give this game, at least some of the things it does right. It's Mario Kart. While it's not the best experience, it's nice for really short bursts to play in. And they have a lot of stages and tracks and stuff from the series. And they even alter them sometimes to make them a little bit more engaging. And it's not like they have just like a condensed version of some of these tracks. Like they will put the full fat track into the game. And that's what I do like that aspect about the game. On top of that, it looks really good. Visually, it looks like a console level game. And it also runs really well. So I think people should check out Mario Kart Tour. If you're not a big Mario Kart fan and you just want to play something on your phone that resembles Mario Kart. But the negatives, which I have a lot here. First of all, and I think before I go on, a lot of people talking about this game don't play enough mobile games to analyze this game fairly. They don't, and more specifically, they don't play enough gacha games to analyze this game fairly. I play enough of them, I just dropped Pokemon Masters actually because it's been making me mad with the way pulls work, and the pull rates in that game are just kind of poop. And you have to grind a lot in that game, and the pull rates are kind of poop. I have some good units. It's just it's upset me too much right now for me to want to play it right now. And I'm on and off with Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. I used to play like Summon Night and all that jazz back in the day. So I'm relatively versed in the gacha game area of mobile games. But let's talk about the negatives. Daily leveling caps. You can only level up, and this is across characters and carts and gliders and stuff, because those are all three separate things. You can only level those up to a certain extent, and then once you're done for the day, you're done for the day. You can't once you level up a character enough, you can't level up any other characters for the rest of the day. Same thing with carts and gliders. And then on top of that, they don't give you enough of the premium currency throughout the little things they call tours or their chapters or whatever they want to call it for pulling characters. They don't give you enough of it. And it's really annoying because like I'm trying to do this video on it, or this will be the video, but I need the gameplay to show you, and I'll have it up now while I'm talking about it. But like the amount of work you have to go through to get rubies, which is the premium currency, is insane, especially considering how the other aspects of the game, it wouldn't be as bad if certain aspects of the game, were not the way they were. They don't give you enough of them though. Period. They don't, even with those other things fixed, they don't give you enough of them, period. On top of that, you have to pull for characters. Pulling for carts and gliders makes sense, but this is Mario Kart. You know, I feel like there should have been a base roster, but you get like 2 characters and that's all you're going to have for the first like 4 hours of gameplay, in it 4 or 5 hours of gameplay if you don't spend any money, and if you get lucky enough, if you don't have, I guess if you're lucky enough for those characters. It's just really ridiculous. Well, yes, you can buy characters with coins, which you can earn by racing. It's so much work. On top of that, the game basically benefits pay to win, because once the multiplayer comes out, you'll see how it benefits them, because with certain races and tracks and stuff, certain characters, gliders and stuff, if you don't have them, you're going to be at a disadvantage, especially because items go up with depending on what character and what track combination you have. So it's just really ridiculous, because you get benefited more for the amount of points you get, which you earn by you doing those things and, performing actions in a race, more so than, actually placing high. Placing high only really affects your player rank or your player level, rather than, how well you do in the race. There's also the issue of them faking multiplayer, which the reason they do this, which I'll have there's a really good video on this. I forgot who uploaded the video. I'll have it in the description though. And it's the reason they're doing this is to keep like the average casual gamer, not people like you and me who can immediately tell that you're playing with bots. A lot of those people can't tell they're playing with bots. A lot of people around my campus and my classes and stuff are playing Mario Kart Tour, and I'm like, y'all are playing with bots, right? A lot of them think they're playing with actual people, but they're playing with bots, and you have to tell them, and they realize they're like, oh, and it kind of takes them out of it. But on top of that, faking multiplayer, you have the gold pass, which is $5 a month. It costs more for that gold pass in 1 year than it does for Nintendo Switch Online. That's ridiculous. That gold pass is like $50 a month. I'd be like, all right, whatever, I understand that, but $5 a month is ridiculous. And the controls of this game, there's only regular turning and drifting controls. Like, there are 2 separate control schemes. There's drifting, which every turn is a drift, or there's regular turning, where every turn is a regular turn, and you can't drift. On top of that, you get challenges to earn rubies, but they take too long to access for a new player. And on top of that, a lot of them are just really hard and time consuming. It's just, the game doesn't do enough to help the player progress. The character pool system, though, I will say this. People are like, oh, loot boxes. I'm like, it's the same as every other gacha game on the market that's been around for the past 10 years. So that's kind of one of those issues where I'm like, that point's kind of moot. Every free-to-play gacha game is doing that. People need to calm down with that one, I believe. But why did we get Super Mario or Mario Kart Tour? And it's more so because enough people did not buy Super Mario Run. I believe when Nintendo saw that Super Mario Run did not do the numbers they thought it would do in terms of people buying the game outright, which I did. I was one of the people who bought the game outright. But when enough people don't buy that game, Nintendo's like, oh wow, people are downloading it but not purchasing the full game. Well, we're gonna have to adapt to this marketplace. And, they thought they could do things the good way, which I believe Super Mario Run was executed extremely well in terms of what they wanted. It's just that, they didn't get the payback that they thought, or the payoff that they thought they were going to do. Especially since I think it only made like $50 million. I mean, that's not a lot in the mobile game market. A lot of these games make $50 million a day. So for them to not get the money that they were seeking is reasonable. But it's one of those situations where it's made less than Super Mario Run in its first week. You know, Super Mario Run made like 16.9 million in its first week, but it's Super Mario or Mario Kart Tour is number 3. And the reason why is, and I believe this is why, a lot of people have downloaded it. It's the highest downloaded mobile game period to date for a day one or first week launch. But it hasn't generated as much revenue as Nintendo was looking to see, is because they're looking for long-term revenue generation rather than short-term. And then on top of that, I believe it's because it's Mario Kart and the average person just wants to play Mario Kart. They're not thinking, I want to buy a specific character. Not all of them are thinking about that. I think that enough of them are thinking that to where Nintendo will get, you know, recurring monetization off of those players. But the average person I see playing is still playing with Toadette. I'm still playing with Toadette because I know I can get the characters without paying for them. So I think what's gonna happen with Mario Kart Tour is gonna make a lot of money. But what I think is Nintendo's gonna ease back on some of these monetization schemes in the future, because I don't believe they want to keep them there. While, you know, you have games like Fire Emblem Heroes and all that jazz and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, those aren't really super egregious. Mario Kart Tour is on the more egregious side. While it's not the most egregious gacha game, I'm gonna use that word a lot. Well, it's not the most scandalous gacha game out there. It's definitely like it's scamming this consumer and the player to a certain extent. And while I think some people are over exaggerating because it's Mario Kart and they just weren't expecting this from Nintendo, this is kind of the standard in the mobile game market and industry. So what I want to say is, try out Mario Kart Tour. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But I just don't think that people need to let me word this correctly. I think people are over exaggerating or under exaggerating, and they're not really putting a spotlight on a true issue. It's because not enough people bought Super Mario Run. It's not that Nintendo wants to do this. It's kind of because they have to, because this is the standard in the mobile game marketplace. I mean, in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, all right, you have a $15 per week subscription that you have to get to half of the quest and half of the level up stuff. I mean, I'm gonna say this. Nintendo's Gold Pass is bad, but it's not like the VIP in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross or in just other games. Like, I used to play Mobius Final Fantasy. Fun game. Looks amazing. The pull rates in that game are garbage. The game really was pushing people to spend money on that game, and it was ridiculous. I just think people need to look at Mario Kart Tour with more of a perspective of the mobile games market rather than looking at it from the perspective of the video game market as a whole. But tell me how you guys feel about all this stuff I talked about. Do you like this first episode of the podcast? What would you like to see? I also am going to need you guys to comment down below in the comment section just on things I spoke about. I want to add another section, you know, from the viewers type section for you guys. And tell me anything else y'all want me to talk about in the next episode of the Shadic Zone. This is being your man Shadic. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. If you're watching this on Anchor, thank you, or listening to it on Anchor, my bad, or if you're listening to this on any other platform like Spotify, if I can get it on Spotify or whatever in the amount of time, thank you. I highly appreciate it. But remember, this is being your man Shadic. Remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blizzaga. Make sure you chill out with some of my other videos, buy some merch, links are down in the description, and we're out of here. Peace, kiss.